Think about the last time you checked your bank account, not to pay a bill, not because you had to, just to check. That quiet anxiety, that little dread before the number loads. Most people have it, and yet nobody talks about it. We'll talk about our relationships, our health problems, our fears, but money stays quiet, locked behind closed doors, hidden behind normal-looking lives. And here's the strange part. It's not because people don't think about money. They think about it constantly, at 2 a.m. when they can't sleep, in the middle of conversations they're only half present for, when they see someone else's car, someone else's house, someone else's life, and feel that familiar pull. That should be me. Morgan Housel spent years studying that feeling. Not the math of money, the mind of money. What he found will change the way you look at your wallet, and more importantly, the way you look at yourself. Here's something most financial books will never tell you. Your IQ has almost nothing to do with how wealthy you'll become. Let that sit. Morgan Housel opens the psychology of money with a story. Two men, two completely different lives. The first, a tech executive, brilliant, educated, the kind of man who helped invent Wi-Fi technology, who made millions for multiple companies. He would wave thick stacks of $100 bills at parties. He once handed a colleague several $1,000s in cash and said, "Go buy me gold coins from the jewelry store." When the coins arrived, he and his friends went down to the dock and skipped them into the Pacific Ocean, like rocks, for fun. When he died, he was completely broke. The second man, Ronald Reed, a janitor. He spent his entire adult life cleaning floors, fixing cars, doing the work most people don't bother to look at. He never earned anywhere close to a six-figure salary. He wore the same worn jacket for years, drove an old, unremarkable car, lived simply and quietly. When he died at 92, they found $8 million in his account. $8 million. The news went international because nobody saw it coming. Nobody around him had any idea, and that's exactly the point Housel wants to make. Finance is not a hard science. It's a soft skill, one that has almost nothing to do with intelligence and almost everything to do with behavior. The first chapter of this book is called No One is Crazy, and I want you to really hear that, because every financial decision you've ever made, no matter how reckless it looked from the outside, made complete sense from where you were standing. Think about the people who lived through the Great Depression. They watched everything disappear overnight. Savings, jobs, homes, security. And for the rest of their lives, many of them hoarded cash, kept money in mattresses, refused to trust banks. To the next generation, that looked insane. But to them, it was the only rational response to what they experienced. Now think about someone who graduated college in 2008, right when the financial crisis hit, who watched their parents lose their homes, who entered a job market that had simply stopped hiring. That person carries a deep, almost cellular fear of the stock market. And someone who bought Bitcoin in 2016 and watched it 10x, they carry something else entirely. Neither person is wrong. Neither person is crazy. They're both just operating from the reality they lived through. Here's what Housel calls this. Your experience with money is a tiny, tiny sliver of what's happened in the entire world. But that tiny sliver shapes 100% of how you see everything. Your parents argued about money. It shaped you. Your family struggled during a recession. It shaped you. You watched someone in your neighborhood get rich quickly. It shaped you. We don't choose our financial worldview. We inherit it. And until we realize that, we'll keep making the same decisions over and over and wonder why nothing changes. Let me describe someone you probably know. They drive an impressive car, new model. Heads turn when they park it. They wear clothes that signal success. They talk about big plans. You assume they have money. But here's what Housel wants you to see. The moment someone buys a $100,000 car, that $100,000 no longer exists for them. It's not an asset. It's not wealth. It's gone, converted into something loud, something visible, something that performs wealth without actually being wealth. Housel has a line that cuts through everything. Wealth is what you don't see. Real wealth is the car that wasn't bought, the upgrade that was declined, the money that stayed quiet, invisible, growing in an account nobody sees. There was a man, a valet worker who parked cars at a hotel. One regular would always pull up in a Porsche. People would watch, admire, assume. Then one day the Porsche didn't come. A beat-up Honda pulled up instead. The valet asked what happened. The Porsche had been repossessed. It turned out the man was broke, had always been broke. He just had an expensive car payment. And this is the trap that swallows so many people. We are wired to judge wealth by what we see. But what people show us is often the opposite of wealth. It's spending. And spending means the money is already gone. Now here's where it gets personal. Why do people spend money they don't have on things they don't need to impress people they don't even like? Housel calls it the man in the car paradox. When you see someone behind the wheel of a Ferrari, your first thought isn't, wow, that person must be incredible. Your first thought is, I wonder how that would feel. You picture yourself in the seat. The person driving is invisible. And yet, that driver bought the car believing the opposite, believing that people would see them, admire them. They don't. They're admiring the idea, the fantasy, themselves, projected onto the car. This is why spending money to look wealthy almost never creates the admiration people are chasing. The people you're trying to impress aren't thinking about you. They're too busy wondering how they'd look with it. This isn't a moral judgment. It's just psychology. And once you truly see it, you can't unsee it. The question Housel is quietly asking is this: what would you do with your money if no one was watching? Most people think the path to wealth is simple. Earn more, get the raise, land the promotion, find the higher paying opportunity. And they're not wrong to want that. But Housel points to something they're missing completely. There's a gap between what you earn and what you keep. And the size of that gap is wealth, not your salary. The gap. He calls it this. Savings is the gap between your ego and your income. Think about that slowly. The lawyer who earns $250,000 a year, drives the new Porsche, pays private school tuition, maintains a house that costs a fortune to run. From the outside, successful. Inside their bank account, nothing is growing. One job loss away from collapse, because their lifestyle grew as fast as their income. And when that happens, high earnings and zero wealth look exactly the same. Housel says something most people resist hearing. After a certain point, building wealth isn't about earning more. It's about needing less, not as punishment, as power. Every dollar you don't spend on performing wealth is a dollar quietly building your freedom. People say money can't buy happiness. Fine, but here's what it can buy, and it's worth more than happiness: control over your time. Housel dedicates an entire section of this book to this idea: the ability to wake up on a Monday morning and choose what you do with that day. Not because a boss said yes, not because you've earned enough vacation days, but because you built enough security that the world can't force your hand. A social scientist named Angus Campbell ran a study in the 1980s on what actually makes people happy. His conclusion? A strong sense of controlling one's life is a more dependable predictor of well-being than any other condition we studied. Not wealth, not status, control. And money, real, silent, accumulated money, buys that control. It lets you say no to the job that's destroying you. It lets you walk away from the situation that's suffocating you. It lets you be present with the people who actually matter, without a phone buzzing in your pocket pulling you back to someone else's emergency. The people closest to us don't want our money. They want our time. And money, built quietly and intentionally, is the only thing that can give it back. Here's a question that should genuinely unsettle you. How much of your financial life is skill, and how much is luck? Housel tells the story of Bill Gates. Brilliant, disciplined, visionary, but also the beneficiary of a 1 in a million coincidence. In the early 1970s, Gates attended one of the only high schools in the entire United States that had a computer. At a time when most people had never touched one, that single accident of circumstance gave him years of practice before the rest of the world even knew what they were missing. Now, Gates had a close friend, Kent Evans, equally brilliant, equally obsessed. He could have been there at the founding of Microsoft, but Kent died in a mountaineering accident before he graduated high school. Also a 1 in a million event. Two people with similar talent, similar drive, separated by pure chance. One became one of the wealthiest humans in history. One never got the chance. Housel is not saying success doesn't matter. He's saying, the more extreme the outcome, the more likely luck or risk played a role that nobody will ever fully account for. Which means, don't take all the credit when things go right. Don't carry all the blame when they don't. And when you look at someone else's financial life, from the outside, remember, you are never seeing the full equation. Here's the trap that swallows every generation: the belief that enough is always just a little further away. Housel writes about a man named Rajat Gupta, born in poverty, rose to become CEO of McKinsey, the most prestigious consulting firm on earth, sat on the boards of Goldman Sachs and Procter & Gamble. By 2008, his net worth was $100 million. That's never work again money. That's your grandchildren never work again money. But Gupta sat in those boardrooms and saw billionaires, and something shifted. He started insider trading, Not to survive, not because he was desperate, because enough, that word, never entered his vocabulary. He went from 100 million to prison, reputation destroyed, legacy erased. For what? More. And the hardest financial lesson Housel teaches isn't about investing. It isn't about saving or compounding or risk management. It's about this. There is no reason to risk what you have and need for what you don't have and don't need. Knowing when to stop. Knowing what enough looks like for you specifically. Not for the person on your screen. Not for the person in the car next to you. For you. That is the final skill. The one that protects everything else. Because the game of money has no natural ending. The goalpost always moves. The comparison never resolves. Napoleon envied Caesar. Caesar envied Alexander. Alexander envied Hercules, who wasn't even real. At some point, you have to draw your own line. Decide what freedom actually looks like. Decide how much time you actually want back. Decide what enough means before the world decides for you. That's what the psychology of money is really about. Not charts, not portfolios, not strategies. The quiet, invisible war happening inside every financial decision you make. The fears inherited from your parents. The identity you built around your income. The performance you put on for people who aren't paying attention. The freedom you keep postponing. Morgan Housel's argument is simple, and it will take most people their entire lives to fully understand it. Doing well with money has little to do with how smart you are, and everything to do with how you behave. That's the book. If it unsettled you a little, good. It was supposed to. If this video made you think differently about money, not about strategies but about yourself, then it did exactly what it was supposed to do. The link to the book is in the description. Read it slowly. Take notes. And the next time you check your bank account, check it with a little more clarity about whose voice is behind that anxiety. I'll see you in the next one.